The time is 8:05. We are starting up. We're going to be covering elements of art and using art inside of the movement. I'm going to introduce our hub facilitator and our presenter. So let's say hello to Faith, if you could give us a wave, and Omri, if you can let everyone know you're here. Wonderful. So I'm going to step back and I'm going to let Omri take over, and then Faith is going to also introduce some content for us a little later.
Awesome, thank you there. As he mentioned, my name is Amari Abreu. I'm from Dominican Republic. Came to United States about 5 years ago. I currently live in Lebanon County, and got introduced to the group because of Faith and her desire for me to be here and share some of my experience trying to and continue to try to introduce the arts as a center point in Lebanon City, Lebanon County. I also know Michael Schroeder. I was able to be part of his Black Lives Matter um, protest that happened and that continued to happen, and I'm proud to call him a friend and a colleague. We're working together on some stuff in Lebanon, so I'm excited for to see more of that. But basically, a little bit of what my background is, other than that I'm from the Dominican Republic and my involvement with the arts. I currently attend Millersville University, um, seeking a PR public relations bachelor's degree. Um, and throughout the time that I've been here in the United States, one of the things that has become pretty clear to me is the need for people to step up and engage with civic duties and their communities and just finding out opportunities of how to serve their immediate community in the moment. And and because of that, I found a lot of amazing experiences with being able to go to the city, go to Lebanon, go to the local officials there, and present some ideas that I personally believe, and based on research as well, that I believe will be beneficial. And so, one of the things that I know that I mentioned that um, were going to be beneficial for Lebanon was the arts. And what does that mean? Last year, um, after speaking at a Black Lives Matter protest, um, had the desire to do more research and go deep and figure out something that will be beneficial for the community in the long term, not just in the moment, not just in the present moment, but also in the long term. And after doing research and having conversations with friends who are part of the art community, I realized that how much needed it was for the arts to become um, part of the main conversation, or one of the main conversations happening in Lebanon. And I want to share with you some information that I shared last year with the city council and the mayor when making the proposal of creating um, an arts commission. We currently have an arts council in Lebanon, but it's a non-profit organization. My proposal was we need to have the local government involved, interested, providing resources for the arts and the artists in the community to thrive. And so I share with them some information that I want to share with you of why this is important. So hear me out. Um, in 2018, a study came out done by the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis and the NEA, which is the National Endowment of the Arts for the Arts, United States, and they said that the arts contribute $700 billion to the U.S. economy, more than the agriculture, transportation, warehousing combined. The arts employ 4.9 million workers across the country, with earnings of more than $360 billion. And furthermore, the arts exported $20 billion more than it imported, creating a positive trade balance. That's a little bit some of the findings that came out. But I want to share with you not only that, but also the social benefits uh, of having the arts, um, and how it goes not only for people in the community in their physical health, but also their mental health. Because studies have shown that people who communities where the arts is a center point of conversation, and activities that are happening around it. Studies have shown that the arts help people's mental health. The arts provide people with the opportunity of socializing, of engaging with each other. And for example, these are some statistics that came out. At-risk students involved in the arts are 23 percentage points more likely to attend college than peers who have a low involvement in the arts. 67% of music therapy participants with dementia felt less anxious and reduced their use of medication. Concentrated cultural districts are associated with reduced poverty, with neighborhood displacement, improved child welfare, and lower morbidity. And 45% of medical institutions across the nation offer some sort of art program, with 8 out of 10 stating that they do so to benefit patient recovery. And so we can see that the arts not only benefit the country nationally in the form of finances, but it also improves the social strata, the ability for people to have better mental and physical health. And so I came with this information. I came across with all of this information when I was doing research, and so I felt the need to present that to the city council and the mayor in Lebanon, because we don't have an arts commission. Other cities like Philadelphia, Lancaster, Pittsburgh, to some mention some in Pennsylvania, do have an arts commission where the mayor of the city appoints a certain group of people, especially those who are artists, um, and give them the opportunity to have a seat in the table and help with decision making and all of that stuff. So I tried to make that proposal to Lebanon, um, and failed. And failed not because it wasn't a good proposal, because the argument is not strong enough, but failed because there is a stronghold, and they do not want to see change, positive change happen. And so um, I didn't stop there, of course. Continue the conversation, continue advocating for it, and because of not only that, but people's support, um, slowly the city eventually ended up creating a mural board for mural art in the community, to be able to have a place where people could go and say, hey, I have this idea, I want to put it, um, I want to see it happen in real life, um, and get approval and support from the city. And so that's one of the things that happened. And now after that, one of the things that I saw also that were beneficial is not only going to the city and making this proposal to them, and thinking that nobody's watching, because a lot of times when we're advocating, when we're fighting for things that we want to see happen in communities, and in this case I was focusing in the arts, one may think that, oh, I'm alone in this, I don't have support. But there are people watching, and there were people watching. And one of the things that we're currently eventually going to be doing, and that we're talking about, creating a group of people in the community who are artists, and forming this group to get them together, to make them a central voice, and have them engage with the local government and advocate for the arts, to not only um, continue to grow in the city, but to become a center point of conversation, activity, and so forth. And so that was my experience. After that, something else that happened was the creation of the NAACP, still newly forming NAACP branch. We're still working on getting chartered in Lebanon, but we were able to start the process of becoming a branch in Lebanon for the NAACP, and I'm part of the organizing committee for that. Michael Schroeder is as well. And something, because of all this involvement, because of just being involved in the community and putting these out, people have been now wanting to support other initiatives, like the creation of a Hispanic Business Association, where never before there has been something like that. More people are running for office now. And even though we're still fighting, and by fighting I mean advocating for the arts to become more prominent in Lebanon, other things have happened out of that and because of that. And so today I just want to share my experience, the process that I went through with that, and give everyone here the opportunity to ask questions, to connect with me outside of this moment here. And I'll be sharing my contact information. I know Faith has some other content that she wants to share. So if you want to share that, Faith, you can do that. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Omri. Omri didn't share everything about what he's doing, but he did work endlessly to try and convince our local city council why we need to have a funded arts commission rather than just a volunteer arts council. And so far we've had a lot of a setback, but one of the things that Omri does very well is he keeps these issues out in the public arena by writing letters all the time in our Lebtown newspaper, which is an online newspaper now that's, gets circulated on Facebook and different platforms. And I think that that's been one of his successes, is that he just doesn't let the messaging, end. He keeps going after things. And right now, Omri's working on also forming a Hispanic business association. I don't know where he is on that, but I know that those efforts are pretty strong on his plate right now as well. I'm Faith Moonlove. I'm an art teacher. I'm an artist. Daryl wanted to do something about how we can impact local culture through arts and messaging. And although we don't have what we would like to see yet in Lebanon through an arts commission, murals that can help to spread the message that we believe in, they are in the works. But one way we have been able to do that in Lebanon County is to do a twice weekly protest, a social justice protest. And, the artwork that comes with that is very powerful. And we have had people, we started, he joined us again. He got cut off here because of the snow. But June 5th was our first protest day. And I don't remember how many people we had, but it was soon after the killing of George Floyd. And it was our response. Well, little did we know how long this was going to continue, because we're still doing it. And I'm going to let Michael share a little bit. He's a Lebanon Valley College history professor. He's worked in many different social justice movements, from anti-fracking, climate change, clean water. He's been a part of the NAACP and getting that set up in Lebanon County. He's leading these twice weekly protests. He's a really busy guy, and he also ran for Senate unsuccessfully. But he's very loved here in Annville and Lebanon County, and he's doing fantastic work. So I'm going to let him talk a little bit, and then when he's done sharing the history of the work he's been doing, I'm going to show you some of the artwork that we've created and the messaging that we continue to put out on the streets to help the conversation continue.
Great, thank you, Faith. Everybody hear me okay? Great, sorry about before, my internet just suddenly died, it's Comcast. So thank you for having me. Thank you for that very kind introduction, Faith. Just very briefly, I mean, we began like most of the country did in the wake of George Floyd's brutal murder in my hometown of Minneapolis. And we had the protests here in Lebanon on Thursday, June 4th. And we decided, why not do it here in Annville? It's a really prominent and really good spot to hold a protest action. So we did it daily for 30 days through June. And then as part of the conversations that were ongoing as we're standing on the street corner engaging in our protest, developed a public oration of Frederick Douglass's famous speech of 1852, "What to the slave is the 4th of July," that he delivered for the first time, again, in 1852. It was the 168th anniversary. So we did a big public oration. It was like 140 people who came. There was like 40 community orators. It was a great event in the Annville Town Square. And then we continued weekly, and now we're continuing twice weekly. And the goal, just very briefly, is to keep this in the public spotlight. Racism has been, and white supremacy have been around for 400 years. They die hard. They're not going away anytime soon. And our goal, as I envision it, is to keep the public pressure on and keep public awareness of the need for racial justice in our communities, even in predominantly white communities like the Lebanon Valley, because as I see it, it's predominantly the job of white people to acknowledge their own racial privilege and to relinquish it at every opportunity in an actively anti-racist way. So we're just going to keep going into the spring, summer, and you will see how the momentum goes. Right now, we get maybe about a dozen people who are showing. At our height, I think, Faith, we had the most we had one day was like 60 people. But altogether, close to 200 people participated over the course of the summer and fall. Now it's down to about a dozen, but it's also really cold outside. And so we're hoping that once spring and summer kick in again, it'll kick back into gear, and we're just going to keep going in our Annville Town Square protest. So I'll just stop there and turn it back over to Faye unless anybody has any questions.
I think what has really also impacted us is that, of course we can all Zoom and do social networks now to be in touch and hear and see things. But I think the act of physically being out on the street where people have to stop at a red light, they have to read the messages, they have to have those awkward conversations with their children in the car. We've had situations where the parent is putting their thumb down and the kid's giving us the peace sign. You've seen uncomfortableness happening in that car. And we've also had people who stopped, they saw us, it was happening regularly. We have a couple bus drivers who honk the whole way through as they're coming through. But we've had people that have been so touched by the work and the messaging that they stop and get involved. How can I be here? We've had a couple young people just show up. They had all their own signs. And it's been really fascinating. And there's been a lot of children who've been involved as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and do not judge me for all my tabs that are open, because I'm an art teacher and I have to teach tomorrow. So I got a lot of stuff up. Let's see here. I got to figure out how to do this.
Faith, I just made you a host, so at this point you should be able to share your screen.
Okay.
So at the very bottom of the screen in Zoom, you should see a green button right towards the center that says share screen.
It says that I have to desktop 1, share, but it says I have to go to system preferences.
Are you on a Mac?
Yes.
Sometimes there are security settings on a Mac that that won't let you do it until you give Zoom access to your security. So there should be a little button directing you to system preferences, or you'll go to system preferences, then security, then you'll unlock it, and after you unlock it, it'll have a list of applications, and you'll grant Zoom permission.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be that good at this. I've never run into this problem before.
Okay. So go to System Preferences. If you click on the upper left-hand corner on the Mac, the Apple.
Okay, let me get out of there. Okay, yes.
Then you should see System Preferences.
Yes.
Then you should see Security.
Okay.
Then on the right-hand side, you should see a pane with a lock, a golden lock. You'll click the lock and you'll type in your password and unlock it. And then you should have the ability to grant Zoom access.
I don't have access to it because it's my school computer.
Oh, okay. So unfortunately, you won't be able to.
I'm so sorry. I have so many great pictures.
It's okay. You want to do me a favor and email it to me in the meantime? You can email me everything.
Okay.
And that's why I always have a backup plan. All right. So while you email, just let me know once you've sent it over, and then I'll take care of that for you.
Okay.
I also selected a couple of images because I think that we need to keep in mind that every major movement and every major era in human history era has been characterized by art. What do we study when we study Greece, Rome? We study pottery. We study we study the paintings, we study the statues, we study these beautiful things that these people had left as monuments and testaments to their achievements and their character. And sometimes when we walk in our own cities, where are our monuments? What have we established to define our character? A couple of statues of Confederates and slavers? No, we need to walk amongst our streets and we need to feel proud. Everyone needs to feel proud about the honor, the character, the truth, and the beauty that we have and that we can leave behind. So sometimes the art that we see in our cities isn't necessarily always um, warm or comforting. Sometimes it's reminiscent of things that are painful, but it's also inspiring at the same time. So let's take a look at some of these examples and let's see if these conjure feelings that we can be proud of when we see them. And if we could imagine seeing these icons of pride and power and unity in our own cities on the blank, cold, and sterile walls. If we could add color and rhythm even. If we can add the portrait of hope and struggle.
Beautiful work.
And there's no reason that we can't take the gray and beige and stucco and brick walls and add splashes of color and meaning to them. Add memories in places that are forgotten. What would this wall be if it wasn't for this painting? They do say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And statue like this,
Wow.
it conjures up very powerful feelings. We're assigning 10 bonus points. Who can identify everybody on this wall?
James Baldwin, Malcolm X, and
Is that Nina?
Yes, team effort. It's always some random male senator controlling some woman's body, isn't it? So there are a lot of ways to say a lot of different things. And frankly, I think some of these older cities, we live in these rural areas around Pennsylvania where there has been a life and a lifestyle, and that life and lifestyle at times has been forgotten. There's a desperate need for something new. And there's been a revitalization in population. There's been a moderate revitalization in economy even, but there's an opportunity to grow it culturally, and art is going to be the catalyst to do so. And it'll also stake a claim and establish a sense of belonging. It'll also establish a sense of unity because we can invite people of all sorts to participate in the creation. Now, I believe Faith has sent me what she had wanted to send me. I'm going to take a moment to bring that up. All right. Faith, if you could let me know when you want me to click. You're muted.
It should just, you can just play it as a, there we go. So these are just images that are pretty much in chronological order. Of course, I don't have every picture. Michael goes around and he photographs every participant who shows up every day. He posts these on social media, and he often now includes some history along with it, or things that are happening. And he tries to identify everybody who shows up. We have had children, we've had people who've been protesting for many years. We have young people who show up, grandmothers, children. That was one of the young women who showed up. She drove by day after day and she said, I can do this. And it was really fun to hear her story.
Now, if I'm correct, I think I've seen projects where even a collection of protest materials were combined to make artwork.
Yeah, Actually, one of my friends out in Seattle did a collection after the Women's March and asked for us to mail her the posters, and they did a big exhibit in a local museum. The other thing that's been really good in these events is that when something's happening at the moment in current events, you know, like when the election, right before the election, or when Trump didn't denounce the Proud Boys, people were able to come out the next day with their messaging about it and have a, you know, pretty healthy way of expressing their outrage.
Now, I believe Lancaster has a lot of success with art in their city, from what I've heard. John Tell knows a lot more about that, but I think, if I remember correctly, even the majority of the artworks in Lancaster are created by people of color. It's not something that I had initially expected, but I think that from what I hear from John Tell, it's created a level of acceptance and identity for the city that has essentially opened doors and opened hearts a little bit.
Well, they are much further ahead than a lot of cities. There's our own Nathan in high heels, but Lancaster really is it's really far ahead of most, you know, communities around here. And I think we could learn a lot from them, which is what Aubrey has been trying to bring to Lebanon City, and showing the parallels of what the arts has done for that city and what it could do for, you know, Lebanon County as well.
And I think we need to also consider what else art does for a community. It's not just something pretty to look at. I mean, it inspires and it gives people will. And rather than internalizing all their confusing emotions and feelings and passions, people become comfortable expressing it. And with the visual arts come literary arts as well. So you end up embracing this culture where people are creating visual stimulus and poetry and sharing it with each other and being passionate instead of internalizing their confusion and pain and excising in the form of drugs and violence. So places that have all these tremendous artworks, they're not plagued by the same issues that some of the more destitute or rural, ignored in former industrial cities have had. So when I compare Wilkes-Barre to, let's say, Jim Thorpe, for example, Jim Thorpe is kind of in the middle of a mountainous nowhere, yet it has all this culture, it has all this history, and it's a beacon of local beauty in many ways, as is New Hope, Pennsylvania, as is Woodstock, because they embrace all these elements of culture and spirituality that keep their people engaged, entertained, and always seeking new things to stimulate themselves, as opposed to this destructive escapism that people pursue with chemical distractions. So one of the problems that we have are people are passing away because they're overdosing on heroin, fentanyl, meth, etc., etc. Let's give them something else to feel, to pursue, to be inspired by. Let's give them art. Let's put it in the streets. Let's put it in the schools. Let's put it in buildings. Let's shout it into microphones, and let's revitalize our cities, and at the same time declare our intentions, and at the same time declare that we're going to be here for a while. I think the slideshow might be over.
It is.
So, show of hands. Who is going to pursue a mural on one of their bleak walls in their city or their town? There we go. I see one. I'm working on it. I see another. All right. So, Bill, if you could do me a favor, I know that you have a lot of connections in Wilkes-Barre for the art community. I will personally be reaching out to you later. I meant to text you earlier because I want to get a list of some artists that can help with the mural that I'm trying to coordinate downtown. We have a wall that's essentially picked out. I have a vision, but we need to get it sketched up and then present it. So that's one. I want to hear next time, next meeting. I want to hear developed ideas. I want to hear that you're reaching out to artists. I want to hear that you are the artist that'll be spearheading this. But
Well, I'm on the board of the Wyoming Valley Art League, and they're at your disposal. Like that, we have over 300 artists as memberships. We have, I think, 310 artists are members of our art league. And out of those, you've got to be able to come up with a few ideas. So
if I can't get a little color on a wall with 300 artists at my disposal, then I think that there's something wrong with me. But
no, we can make this happen. And I've actually been talking with the NAACP has been in conference with Mayor George Brown, and we are in the process of talking about renaming Cole Street Park into Martin Luther King Park. And that might go along with that, to unleash the renaming of that park along with a mural would be wonderful, like that, and great publicity for the city. So yeah, I can help you with that.
all right. Walk through your city. Think about who owns a building, who owns a business.
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions. See who's willing to collaborate with you. By the way, all of you are invited when we're painting down here. If you want to make the trip, we are happy to host you. We're happy to put a paintbrush in your hand. I'm sure that we're going to have some press available as well. And when you're painting your walls, extend the invitation to us. Let's make this part of the culture of how we conduct ourselves. Let's make this not a foreign idea, but something that everyone looks to do as soon as it gets warm. They look to find the next mural, the next wall, the next statue that they can put in their city. And you know what? Sometimes sometimes you're going to be able to get the city to pay for it too. All right. So I can't really see a reason for us to not unleash this new wave of beauty as our initial statement and our declaration.
Star has a question, I think.
Oh, sure, please.
No, I'm sorry. I just was agreeing with everything. I live in Williamsburg, PA, and I feel like this kind of is like an art city. I'm not sure of like all the African American arts and things like that we have, but I know that I feel like if we present the idea, or I feel like they would love to do that at this point. Like, we are kind of a conservative city, but they are open to things like that, and I'm really excited about it.
I'm looking forward to hear what you end up suggesting in your city.
Okay.
Let's move on to the open discussion. And let me also say, Jordy has an event that he wanted to share. If anyone else's organizations has events that are coming up, feel free to take this time to share them.
Hey, before we share those, Nathan has his hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, good. Hey, yeah, sorry. I can't have my video on right now, but I don't know if anybody talked about this because I kind of lost the connection for about 10 minutes in there. But the Pennsylvania Youth Congress is part of their legislative agenda that they released, which, as far as I know, is the first LGBTQ agenda that was released for like an outside organization outside of like the party caucuses. It was interesting because the final point was a visibility agenda item, and it was actually to have a bust, a statue of Bayard Rustin in the Capitol complex, and it would be funded by the state. And Bayard Rustin, a lot of people have been bringing him up lately in a lot of these different Zoom chats, but he was a Pennsylvania native. He was the chief organizer for MLK, and yeah, the idea of commemorating him and his efforts and his important role in the civil rights movement as a Black queer person living in a time when neither of those things was broadly acceptable is commendable and worth having a statue to. So that movement, yep, Jordy's holding up Brother Outsider, which is a movie about his life as well. It's really great. Saw it a few years back, and it's powerful. But anyway, I just wanted to lift that up as one of the things that that the Pennsylvania Youth Congress is pushing for from the state legislature. So that's something artsy.
That is absolutely on topic, and it's a great example of the fact that there are ways to get funding for these projects.
Yeah, keeping up with the arts, just so people know, some universities, I know Bucknell at least, are doing some things to make art more accessible. I put this in the chat, but there's a group called Step Africa that they're a professional dance group, and the Weiss Center, which is the Performing Arts Center at Bucknell University, they're streaming it free. So I put the link there that tells you about them, and then on it there's like get tickets. So you may be a little bit confused, but if you click on that, it takes you to a page where you get a ticket for access to the streaming, and the free streaming ends February 21st. So that's one thing. The not artsy thing that the Hub for Progress is doing next week, and there's some time pressure because if you don't know, the electoral calendar, like the calendar to run for office in Pennsylvania, this is a personal frustration of mine. It's very early, right? So I feel like we just finished an election and got Biden, in the White House, and now we have election stuff going on. So next Tuesday at 7, there's a group out of New York State called the Outrun Coalition, and they are going to do a panel with several people who have won, including our own star who's on this call, people who have won different kinds of races in rural New York, rural Pennsylvania. They have a state senator who's the first person of color in the state legislature in Vermont who's going to talk. So several of us heard Paolo, who started it, with some other people, talk today. And it's kind of the sort of, high energy thing we need to really, talk about. And so they're going to talk about what they've done, but Outrun Coalition itself, like that's sort of the sort of sharing their story, but they want to help recruit candidates, mentor candidates, help train them. And there is a fair amount of like how to run for office out there, but in my experience, a lot of it tries to be very like cut and dry, very in the middle, like it's from the League of Women Voters or it's from a voting election office, and they will tell you the nuts and bolts. But Outrun is about getting people with progressive values to win. And so they're going to go more deeply into like the strategy and building on the things we know, which is like, you don't have to run in rural areas and like run only trying to get white voters and, not say anything about race. Like they're really building in the multiracial, multi-generational, inclusive kinds of coalition politics that we really need. So that's next Tuesday. We're asking people to do a Zoom registration link. So I'm putting that there. And so if you want to hear more about them, if you know people who are thinking about running, that's Tuesday at 7. And there is a little bit of time pressure because if anybody's thinking about running, we want to hear from them and want to help them because March 9th is the end of circulating petitions. I hope I didn't talk too long.
All right, thank you, Jordy.
May I add something in, Daryl? Or is this?
Absolutely, Brenda, please.
Okay, hi, my name is Brenda Johnson, and I worked as a field organizer with the Biden-Harris campaign, and I put in a link. I'm working with a group that works with Black Lives Matter, and we're having a candid conversation on systemic racism. It's for Black History Month. I put the Zoom link in. It's for February the 28th. And we're going to be basically discussing the prison industrial complex and how it affects Black and Brown lives.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to pull all the events that are posted in the chat, and I'm going to just try to highlight them in the email wrap-up with the notes. This way,
Great.
everybody has easy access to that information. And once again, great part of what we try to achieve here is to facilitate networking. So let's feel more than welcome to share anything that we've got coming up. Sheree, I see that you just popped something in. Thank you very much. And this way we'll have that strong, powerful network with each other.
Sam has her hand raised.
Sure, please.
I just wanted to mention, people may have seen this on Facebook, but the Lycoming Tri-County chapter of the NAACP is holding a virtual open mic in honor of Black History Month this Saturday from 11 to 1. If you would, I will actually, I'm gonna have to look for it, but I'll go ahead and put the Zoom credentials in the chat in a minute. We're not broadly publicizing them, but if people contact us at Lycoming Tri-County NAACP, we will email them to people. Anyone is welcome to watch or participate, but we are also trying to be a little cautious about, we don't want to get people Zoom bombing us. People are welcome to speak, sing, recite poetry. There's going to be a play that was original play, or a play, an interpretation of a play that was done, brief play that's going to be put on. So we're looking for lots of different performers. It is limited, like it's going to be, it's hard to sing along in Zoom, but we think people have lots of talent and passion, and we want to see that.
I'm sorry, how do you get the information?
I will put it in the chat in just a minute.
Sheree?
Carrie has her hand raised now.
I just wanted to mention that Freedom Fighters is doing a Black History Month talent show that's streaming online. Its tickets are $10. The link is in the chat. We're looking to raise funds to build a community center for our youth here in Wilkes-Barre. So yeah, check it out. The link is in the chat, and that's what we got coming up.
Sheree, is there some seating for a live attendance as well?
So at this time, the in-house seats, because of Corona, have been reserved for the acts and their family. So everything is online.
Perfect. Let's also see, we had Faith, she was a facilitator for us. What the facilitators for these meetings do is they meet with me and the host, and we see if we can just lay out the organization for the meeting upcoming. And Alex is going to be presenting next session from the ACLU. And let's see if we can get a volunteer for a new or an additional facilitator. Anyone interested in taking part? Okay, if nobody's interested, or if anyone's interested later, they can always email me, and we're always looking to get more people actively involved, get more people communicating, and this is a great opportunity for you to test out some of your Zoom leadership skills if you'd like the opportunity to develop that. If we're out of discussion topics, then we might be able to wrap this up a little early. So the floor is still open if anyone has anything else they'd like to contribute.
I guess I could just mention that I don't think this has been mentioned either. The LGBTQ roundtable has changed its schedule. So now every other Thursday from when these meetings happen, you can attend the LGBTQ roundtable. And there's also an event next Wednesday, which is on the 24th. I think Jay's on here. I'm on my phone, so I can't post the stuff. but if
I put it on there already, Nathan.
Okay, you already did. Perfect. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of overlap. We already, I think Daryl mentioned earlier in the call that it's really intersectional, right? So you can be both Black and LGBTQ. So and even if you're not, you're still welcome to come and hear about. The next one is actually another portion of the Pennsylvania Youth Congress agenda. So they'll be covering that, and I don't know what else, but yeah, just feel free to attend, and the links are already in there from Jay.
And maybe just one more plug for the Annville Town Square protest. It's every Wednesday and every Saturday, rain or shine, 4 to 5 p.m. at the only stoplight in town. And then the other thing is the NAACP is also in the midst of forming a chapter in Lebanon County. We are awaiting our formal chartering by the state branch, but part of our job is to always reach out and recruit new members. So if anybody either lives or works in Lebanon County, then you are eligible to join the Lebanon County NAACP.
Michael,
So,
is that different than the Schuylkill County one?
It absolutely is, yes. In fact, it's kind of exciting because Schuylkill is forming one just as we are to their immediate south. And so, it looks like there will be a spine of NAACPs from Schuylkill to Lebanon to Lancaster. And we look forward to working together with these other branches.
I hope she doesn't reach through Zoom and smack me upside my head, but Heather Rhodes, who's on here, has done a lot with chartering. So she might be interested in connecting with you, and I can, Heather, I don't know if you can come off mute, but.
Yeah. All I know is Saturday we have our national meeting. Everybody who is chartering, do you guys already have your invitations? Because we kind of had to really press for that. To get that link to get into that meeting. It's starting Saturday at 9 in the morning. Sorry.
No.
And,
sounds like you have your number one fan.
yes, he's my sidekick. And so apparently at that point they'll have that national meeting and everyone will vote on whether or not the chartering committees will become branches on Saturday. So hopefully just in a couple of days, we might officially get our branch number. I'm so excited. It's been forever.
Yay, go Scranton!
Yeah. So if anybody needs the link, let me know. The link that is given to you that's generated is would be identifiable by the person who signs up for it. So you can't share the link. I can just share the link to get a new link. So I'll throw my email in the chat and then I'll share it with you if y'all need it.
I just want to throw out, there's so much great stuff going on, and some of it is like content creation that people are doing digitally. So Jontel's not here now, but he's been here before, and he has a streaming show that he does. It's on Facebook. It's called the Leon Block. And I think recently he had one highlighting Black-owned businesses. And then another one that is very near and dear to my heart is Barnstorming Pa. That's a podcast I started with a few other people 3 years ago. We're up to episode 119, but Nick Presley, who's on this call, was a recent guest. That's been the favorite of at least my mom and my mother-in-law. KJ, who was here and then left, we have an episode going up with him soon. And that one's a slightly different if you've ever listened to our show. It's part of something I'm just launching, and I would love help from people. I really want to use the podcast to capture like the oral history of the uprising from George Floyd all the way through now, and capture the voices of people who are, newly re-energized, like the people, some of the people with the Lycoming Tri-County NAACP, or people who are newly politicized. KJ is more in that camp, and talk about, what happened, but also where it goes. So we're getting traction with what we're doing. We have a podcast that's hit 16,000 listens. Not all of them do, but anyway, I'll put my contact info if you know someone who would like to be interviewed, or if you'd like to know more about that project. And okay, Nathan, sorry, I shouldn't have been reading. Can someone, either Will or Nathan, What I don't understand what's going on in the chat about volunteers.
Sorry, I was answering a question from before. That's all.
Oh. The other thing is Sam. I don't know if you feel like you know about this, but Sam does work with like downtown. What is it called? The downtown center.
The Pennsylvania Downtown Center.
So between that, like, haven't you worked on arts funding for municipalities? I was thinking about what Aubrey started with.
So I have not specifically. I tend to do things that have no money, like except for the things that have a huge amount of money. But I am working on a public art project now in Lewisburg. There are, I mean, it sounds like I can learn a lot from Omari, but I might be able to help people connect to the existing, organizations like the Main Street programs or their Elm Street programs. I believe Lebanon used to have an Elm Street program. I don't know whether it currently does. And Elm Street programs are for neighborhood revitalization, and really there's a strong effort right now to, and has been for the last several years, to try to make it very much what the people who live in a neighborhood, not the landlords, want and need. And but it is hard, especially connecting to people. But art projects are a great way to make those, provide opportunities for communication and start to make connections happen. So yeah, if people have an interest in trying to figure out if your community has sort of an existing organization that could be an umbrella that could help you pursue this, maybe get more, it might help you get more traction with the municipality, possibly. It's not a guarantee because it would also be usually a 501c3, so a nonprofit. But they may, when I say an umbrella organization, it could be a way to collaborate on a grant, even if your organization doesn't yet have 501c3 legal status, which that opens up more avenues to get funding. And I think we're talking about that in future meetings like this.
Sam, in Lebanon County, I would be curious to find out if we did a playground revitalization with a mural, a ceramic tiled mural that dealt with diversity just this past summer. And I'm curious if it was through that grant or not. But I'm sure I have contact with the woman who was in charge of that and could help somebody reach out to her if they'd like to know, because it's really a beautiful mural.
Yeah, there are a range of possible sources for funding. And a lot of them for the arts are sort of specific, but there are, like, you can usually go to maybe a major regional public library and get access to databases of what grants, categories of grants are available, and start to get information about how to access that funding. It's a big job, but it's not, it can be done. You just have, especially if you have a vision and you have a clear idea of what you want, and you can explain that. That's most of what they want to, they want to know. Can you explain it? Can you describe it in detail? Can you describe what will be involved in making it happen? How much it's going to cost, what materials you need, who's going to do it, all of those things. So it can sound daunting, but it doesn't have to be.
All right. And I think one of the things that we could all learn from Omri is persistence. That was one of the things that I was impressed by, that he hasn't stopped even though he's been told no, and continues to go. And I find that inspiring and motivating, even for knowing that if I start this here, if I get told no, that doesn't necessarily mean that I can't get some color on these walls.